Hey, thank you for watching Chief and Grandstand. I have a neighbor that had brought this motor over to me, asked me to work on it and see if I can get it running. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to share with all the wives, husbands, spouses, college kids, younger kids on how a gas engine actually runs. So I'm going to take a minute, explain it to you, and then we can go from there. First things first, when you look at a motor or an engine of some kind, just like the keys in your car, you've got an on and off switch. A circle means that it's not going. It's just looping around and not going to do anything. You go to the solid line, that means you're connecting point A to point B. A solid line means you're connecting and it's on. You're going from point A to point B to point C, that kind of thing. The line is always on. Another thing to look at real quickly on small motors, whether it be your lawnmowers, weed eaters, and so on and so forth, you've got these little stickers and all these little levers and stuff like that. This is a choke. This is your fuel. If you're turning it off for the week, the year, like say it's late fall, you're turning it off for the winter, you want to turn this off. So this is telling us to have gasoline to the motor. We need to have it that way on the bottom switch. So let's say it's November. Let's turn this off, okay? You never want gasoline sitting in your carburetor all winter. Now, let's say it comes springtime and you're ready to crank this motor, all right? So we know that the gas on is the arrow that way. Let's turn it, the gas is on. Now, to get it started on the small motor, we need to choke it. It's saying to choke it, we need to come to the left. And I'm not sure if this is showing through, but what that means is this butterfly right here is coming and it's gonna suck a little more fuel to get it fire off a little bit easier. So let's say we're gonna start. So we wanna pull this thing back over this way to choke it. And when it starts firing, what's gonna happen is the motor starts to rumble or do whatever, we're gonna work this thing back this way, and then it's gonna be ready to go, and the motor should be running good. Thanks again for watching Chief and Grandstand. There are 3 things on the small motor, even in your cars and stuff, that they have to run. There are fuel, they are air, and they are fire. I'm going to show you the fuel, the air, and the fire on this small motor, but it does kind of transfer over to your college kids that have a car running down the road. Make sure you've got a fire, make sure you got air, make sure you've got fuel, that kind of thing. And hopefully it'll help someone down the road. Okay, thanks for watching Chief and Grandstand. Looking at your small engines, your lawnmowers, your weed eaters, your tillers, and stuff like that for the upcoming planting season, you have to have air, fuel, and fire. Let's talk about fuel first. Your motor's in here. This is your fuel. Everybody knows how to add gasoline to their small engine. This is an air filter. I'll try to give you another angle. Your air is coming in through here. It's got a filter through it. It keeps all the trash and stuff out. And this right here is your spark plug, okay? That is your fire. Okay, so what happens is you've got your fuel, you've got your air, and you've got your fire. How that all works together is through a carburetor. Everybody's heard of a carburetor. Okay, the carburetor there's a line going under this to the fuel tank. There's an opening from the air filter going to the carburetor. The carburetor takes the fuel and the air, it mixes it it's minute, and then it injects it into the body, and we're about to get ready for the fire. Okay, so we got our fuel, air filter. I know I'm repeating all this, but it's really important. Fuel, air filter, goes into the carburetor. The carburetor just mixes it, and it's getting ready to go into the fire where your spark plug is, right? This is the actual motor. The fuel and the air filter, mix the stuff. It goes into what people call the head, and that's where your piston comes up and down. And it injects the fuel and the air into the head of this. Your piston is moving this way, okay? And then when it gets to the top, your spark plug fires and creates the fire. It burns that fuel and air mixture, and it creates a force with that expansion. It explodes, per se, and it creates energy that makes that piston go down. So that piston is going to go down, it's going to cycle around, and it's going to come right back up, okay? And then it's going to add more fuel, more air, more fire, and it's going to do this. You've heard of RPM. You've got 1,000 RPM. You've got 10,000 RPM. But that is the cycle that makes this right here, your camshaft. That's what's going to make this turn. Okay, we've talked about the three things: fuel, air, and fire. We got a fuel, air. We got a spark plug over here, which is the fire. Comes down into the motor. The carburetor, which is over here on this particular motor, and it mixes the fuel and air, injects it. It doesn't inject it, but it puts it into the thing. Your spark plug fires the piston. This piston is wrapped around, so as it comes and it's off-centered, it drives this shaft into a circle. So like, have you heard of a V4, like a 4-cylinder, a 6-cylinder, an 8-cylinder? All that means is for every cylinder, you have one spark plug. And so you have a lot more power with a V8, which is an 8-cylinder, versus a V4 or a 4-cylinder. It just has a lot more energy to turn this, which drives your car, drives your battery, drives your air conditioning, and so on and so forth. I know there's going to be people out there saying there's so much more, and it's much more complicated than what you're describing, and they are correct. But I wanted to reach out to the ultra basic wives, husbands, spouses, college kids, high school kids, elementary school kids that are interested in this. This is a motor. You have to have fuel, you have to have air, you have to have fire. You have to have a carburetor that mixes the fuel and the air, and then it goes into the motor, and as soon as a piston of some kind reaches some point, the spark plug fires, and it burns the fuel and the air, and it creates energy that drives down. There's the piston that goes through here. It is connected to this camshaft. It turns this. This is the energy. This is what you're looking for. You have to have this spinning motion for like a water pump, a generator, so on and so forth, to be able to achieve what you're looking for. This right here is actually the exhaust. You see how they mounted the exhaust on the opposite side of the carburetor and the intake? That it expended air, the CO2 and the carbon and stuff, comes up through here, and it gets out of the exhaust. That's where you hear your loud noises from your small engines and stuff. Okay, I know those of you that are out there saying, hey, it's way more complicated and there's a way more stuff that you got to know. You're correct. But again, we're talking to the ultra basic beginner level engine people. So this is a small motor. This is a small engine. This is something that's on your weed eater. This is something that's on your lawnmower. This is something that's on your generator type of deal. When you add the fuel, the air, and it goes through everything, through your carburetor that's over here, and it fires, and this piston is cycling up and down, 8,000 times a minute. Well, it creates heat. Well, what you do is you have this port and this port on this particular motor, and we fill this with oil. There's a wheel on this camshaft, and it slings oil up into the cylinder on the bottom side of the cylinder. And what it does is it keeps it from burning up and galling and melting this part and this part of the motor. Now, if you're talking about, like, say a car engine that runs on gasoline, a larger generator, and so on and so forth, you notice we don't have anything other than our fuel, air, fire, and our shaft with an oil-cooled motor. Let's say you have a chainsaw. Those are like a chainsaw like that steel right there. Those are going to be oil-cooled. Well, on the two-stroke, you get to add the oil and the gas. And that oil in there keeps the gas that we've injected in this from getting so hot that it melts the motor. If you're talking about your car, when the gasoline tank mixes with your air from the air filter, and then it goes to your motor, and it gets to the piston, and your spark plug fires, it creates heat as well. But that is where the radiator comes in. The radiator has water in it, has antifreeze in it for when it gets really, really, really cold. Keeps it from freezing because water freezes. And the air goes through the radiator and it cools the radiator, and that water cycles through and it goes through your block. Almost like a spaghetti noodle. And what that does is that cooler temperature runs through your block and stuff, and it keeps everything in here cooler as you're creating energy to still, I don't care if it's a 10-cylinder, a 2-cylinder, or a 1-cylinder like this mini motor, it's made to spin a shaft to create energy. Back in the old days, the old timers used a water wheel to create a circular motion. And they would use that to pump water. They would use it to operate sawmills, so on and so forth. What we have done is ultra basically, we have a small motor, we have fuel, we have air, we have fire from the spark plug, and it is spinning this. This is true for all of your cars. It's true for all your tractors, your weed eaters, your lawnmowers, so on and so forth. Now, there's a lot of other things that go into that, but these are the first three things that it will not crank. You need to make sure you got fuel going to it. You need to make sure you got air going to it. And you need to make sure your spark plugs are good. Like and subscribe. Thanks to all the veterans. Please take the time to help a veteran family of someone that is deployed. Maybe mow their yard. Maybe give a mom or father an opportunity to go out and eat by themselves, have a little bit of quiet time. And if you need any help as a veteran, please leave a comment below, and I have resources that can help you. Thank you, and God bless.